6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I am asking Wallace, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
I would like for us to continue to stand as Mr. Morgan would be so kind to bless us with the invocation tonight.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the decisions that we are going to make, and we thank you for the conversations and the goodwill that we have for the continued blessings of this city. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone, please be seated, and thank you. We have an item to approve the agenda. I skipped it, so I would like a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve.
Second.
Please vote. She's coming. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, next item, the attorney's report.
Madam Mayor, City Council met in closed session on 2 items described on the agenda. Council gave direction to staff. No final action was taken.
Thank you. The next item is public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on that item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there anyone who would like to speak under public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and all the City Council members and dignitaries. I'm here because your mayor couldn't make it to an award event that we gave awards to all the mayors. Can you hear me? Okay, all the mayors in Kern County, and most of them showed up. It was a phenomenal affair. Something like I've never witnessed before. The family friendly, the spontaneous, natural, clean jokes. It was such a spirit of camaraderie. It was really something. Mr. Thomas couldn't make it. He told me that from the beginning, that he was booked for that day. So I asked him if he couldn't come, could he say a prayer for our event? And I think you have some very powerful prayers, Mr. Thomas. I thank you very much for that. I do want to briefly show the plaque that the mayors received, and I'd like to read it. It's called a flame. It says, this is from the True Love Tribes. Presented to Peggy Breeden, Mayor of Ridgecrest, California. Thank you for exemplifying living for the sake of others and exhibiting the heart of a true parent toward all the citizens in your city. We honor you this 29th day of September 2018. So, Mayor Breeden, we really honor you.
May I ask the whole council to come up because it is a team effort. Please, all of you come up. I'll accept it on everybody's behalf.
And we did mention that the mayor has to have the support, and that support is always coming from the city council members. It is a joint affair. We understand that.
Thank you. Your letter inviting me was so gracious. I wanted to go. Oh, I want to be there. I want to go. But we couldn't. So please all come up. So it's part of all of us.
Oh, she's getting a picture. Why don't you hold this?
Okay.
Hold that. And let me get a hug.
Oh, that's Thank you. What a gracious honor, and to think that you recognize the hard work of all the mayors in your letter, phenomenal. May I give you a hug? Thank you very, very much.
Oh, yes. I think I mentioned that she also got certificates from pretty much all the congressional offices in California, starting with Congressman Kevin McCarthy and even some of the Kern County supervisors. There was 2 of the Kern County supervisors there, including the chairman, Mr. Mike Maggard. So the room was full of influential people, and they were really on their best foot, I believe, for some reason. And this one is for Mr. Thomas. Something for you, sir.
Thank you so much. I'll
For
share
that
this
powerful
with all.
prayer.
Appreciate you. All you do.
I got to head back. I got a long drive.
Be safe. Pray for your journey.
A short prayer.
Yes, sir.
What a surprise. Thank you. I didn't know you were coming. I'd have baked a cake if I'd known you were coming.
Next time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on public comment, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City
Good evening,
Council.
Linda.
My name is Linda Fuller. My address is on file. I am here to ask a couple of questions on behalf of the Senior Center. And I was under the impression that things may get started on the 1st of October, and I see they have not. And now I'm being told, after talking with Bakersfield, that maybe the 8th of October. So I'm hopeful.
Excuse me, there has been a little bit done. They have to do a Call USA, and you'll notice the white marks on the street in front of the Senior Center.
I will be more conscientious.
And so
Thank you.
they have to wait so many days before they can do any work after they do that Call USA.
Good.
So that's
Thanks.
it's a preliminary
and
thing. It's not actual work.
And thank you for keeping me, updated on that. I do see in the paper that the work on the Cottonwood project, or the Cottonwood homes, has been done, and I was reading, and I had talked to you guys at a previous meeting about the $25,000 that was allocated for that geographical area, which I think was a little much, but I personally went over, took pictures, walked through with a local landscaping contractor, and again, I thought $25,000 was a little much. I would also question, and I'm not real versed, I'm just old enough to question everything I see when I don't understand things. I was under the impression, according to my research, when a development is built such as this, there is an assessment district, and that assessment district should have been taking care of that all of these years. And that's just a question, a thought. I don't know why we're spending money when it should have been something that was previously done. But now, with that in mind, because I kind of set you up for the kill.
We want to give you an answer.
Oh, good.
A very simple answer, that assessment district was never formed. And so the maintenance of that park falls on the city's general fund.
Understand. Thank you. And then I would like to ask on behalf, as a senior, as a Ridgecrest resident for 50 years, I would like to ask, I would maybe even like to beg the City Council or the City of Ridgecrest. It has been brought to my attention that the busing situation for the seniors to go to Inyokern is just not, it's just not workable under the circumstances. Due to the fact, I'm asking this because I personally feel, my opinion is, had the city done their due diligence 20 years ago when they got a block grant, and 10 years ago when they got a block grant, and 6 years ago when they got a block grant, and many years ago when Mr. Ponick was on the city and so on and so forth. I'm asking the city to donate the bus, not charge, and not make a 95-year-old lady sit over there until 2 o'clock in the afternoon with absolutely nothing to do. Thank you.
Could you address, were we going to charge them for that?
Excuse me, Peggy. According to now we already pay for the meals, and that's not, it is what it is, and they are donated. The bus, I understand, was supposed to be $1.50 per direction, so that's $3. There are some people in our community, and they are embarrassed and humiliated in the fact that they just cannot pay $3. This is people's livelihood, and I know you guys know how passionate I am about this.
I got that.
Yeah.
The only thing I was trying to find out is, are we going to charge them?
It was my understanding that they were being charged, and they would have to wait for the cycle of the bus, which is at 2. Am I wrong, Mr. Sprand? Or?
Well, we've been attempting to work with some local churches in town.
That's right.
I knew that. I've been in contact with Bakersfield, and I am well aware of that.
We've had 2 churches, at least one specifically, that stated that they'd be willing to discuss with the county for the county to use their facility for the senior services.
And I'm working on that.
And they are working on it. I know that my Parks and Rec director has been in touch with the county. They are aware of that.
And thank you for sharing that.
We are trying to get them together.
Good.
So we do understand, even if we provide a bus service out there, we understand that it is changing the lives of these seniors significantly. Yeah. We're offering to help. We're trying to find a location within the community. Obviously,
and I recognize that.
It's really up to the county
yes.
to decide whether or not they want to move that
yes.
here. We did hear one explanation that they only have one vehicle, and they weren't able to bifurcate the food because they put in big trays, and so they're doing current. Mm-hmm. So I know that Mr. Patton's trying to work with them. We can only do what we can do. It's really up to the county.
Well, and anything that I can do to kind of cushion the blow, or I really, really, really want to work with you guys for the seniors.
It's really up to the local churches in the county. If the local churches are willing to provide the space, then it's really up to the county to accept that offer.
And I recognize that.
And we're trying everything we can to try and facilitate it, because
thank you.
We saw this coming some time ago, and unfortunately, this is where we're at.
Great.
So,
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, God bless.
Thank you, Linda.
Oh, thank you.
Good afternoon. I have a prepared statement here. My name is Manuel Fierro. My address is 920 West Purdue, and I come to you representing High Desert Leaping Lizards. Lights On After School is a nationwide event that calls on the importance of after school. It is so big that even the Empire State Building turns their lights on to commemorate it. This year, our Lights On After School event will be held on October 26th from 4 o'clock to 5:30. Our students will showcase what they learned in biology, including the plants they've grown and the different habitats they've learned about. Lights On After School events are being held at Fowler, Pierce, and Inyokurn schools. After school programs across the state of California serves over 1,600,000 people. Well, 2,400,000 people are on the waiting list. Locally, High Desert Leaping Lizards, our parent company, serves close to 230 students, with 95 students at my site at Fowler and over 50 students on the waiting list over at Fowler. Since we are a state-funded program, which Sierra Sands holds the contract, we are required to follow certain curriculum standards. At all 3 sites, we offer many different activities, some of which have been eliminated by the elementary schools themselves. Every day, students are given 30 minutes of physical activity in a curriculum called Spark. It's not your typical physical activity that you and I grew up with. It's games that gets the kids' hearts racing while they are having fun. Afterwards, we serve a healthy snack, which only healthy food is served. And then we spend an hour on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Again, this month's unit is biology. Prior months, we've had is the chemistry of bubbles, Newton's laws of motions as we build miniature golf courses and bowling alleys, and business and money as students made and advertised carnival games that they made. After STEAM is an hour worth of tutored homework, help, and finally some enriching activities, including cooking, art, music, computers, just to name a few. So I'm here today to invite you, Madam Mayor, and the rest of the City Council members to come and visit our Lights On After School event. First of all, I would like to personally thank you, Mayor Breeden, for coming last year to
It was great.
our
So
event
much
last
fun.
year. And, which was a big highlight for our students and all. Again, the date is October 26th from 4 o'clock to 5:30 at Fowler and Anglican Schools. Pierce will be holding theirs at 4:30 to 6 o'clock. And then I will also send an email to follow up just to invite all the council members and everything. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I have to say, I saw the most amazing things being constructed at that school. So those kids are sharp and they know what they're doing. So
The schools are Fowler Schools, Anglican Schools, and Pierce Schools.
thank you. Thank you, Manny.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, good evening. I'm Lynn Whitcomb. I live on Mesquite Avenue here in town, and I pastor Cornerstone Bible Church. And with respect to that, by the way, our church has offered up our facility to help out with the senior center. And just today I talked with Michelle Tinneman, I think her name was, with the county, and we're working out details hopefully this week, and we'll be ready to go to let the seniors use our facility. We're happy to do that. But I came up here to talk about the casino. So I pastor Cornerstone Bible Church, but I also represent 15 other local churches so far in the Valley who've signed a letter opposing the off-reservation Native American gambling casino in Ridgecrest. And the concern that we have with the proposed casino is summarized well by one of the most famous Baptist ministers in American history, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who wrote, "Gambling is often legally right, but morally wrong. One should live by the principle that he will not take from society without giving to it. The orderly existence of society is dependent upon this type of reciprocity. Gambling is based on the principle of taking from society without giving anything in return. It is really getting something for nothing. Powerful, organized gambling, like casinos, makes for a breakdown in the structure of social life and a breakdown in the moral principles of any society. Something may be legally right and morally wrong." Gambling is not just a moral issue, though. There are economic and social consequences from casino gambling that everyone in the community, churchgoers and non-churchgoers alike, will be forced to bear. So, for example, Earl Granoll's, an economics professor at Baylor University and the author of Gambling in America, Costs and Benefits, has estimated that every dollar of benefit a casino brings to a community entails about $3 in social costs, whether it's increased crime or declining productivity or more spending on services such as unemployment payments. It's a social negative, Dr. Granoll has said. Casino gambling is bad for the economy. It should not be allowed by anyone, anywhere, anytime. And then John Rosengren, writing in the Atlantic magazine an article called How Casinos Enable Gambling Addicts, wrote, "Problem gamblers are worth a lot of money to casinos. According to some research, 20% of regular gamblers are problem or pathological gamblers. Moreover, when they gamble, they spend, which is to say lose, more than other players. At least 9 independent studies demonstrate that problem gamblers generate anywhere from 30 to 60% of total gambling revenue. Communities with casinos typically experience an increase in crime, including prostitution, substance abuse, driving while under the influence of alcohol, auto thefts, home robberies, mail theft, loan sharking, and street crime, and that's according to the social and economic impact of Native American casinos." And our pastoral experience from these 15 pastors from 15 local churches confirms that the proposed casino would be bad news for the community. We know some of the faces and families who are behind the gambling statistics. We know from firsthand experience the pain of the financial, marital, familial, legal, and spiritual harm that gambling causes. We're persuaded that the proposed casino would be bad news for the Indian Wells Valley. I've shared with you about my own father's experience. I just talked to a pastor today, a local pastor that you'll recognize when he appears. He's working with the family right now. The couple's been married for 25 years. Their home is being repossessed, and they're going through a divorce, and it's because of gambling. So things like that will happen more often once there's an organized gambling casino in our town. So we appreciate you guys. Please don't approve an extension of the escrow period for the casino. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, is there any other public comment?
Good evening. My name is Paul Knipe. I'm pastor of Pilgrim Lutheran Church. Honorable Council, it is assumed, perhaps naively, that people generally function in terms of what they believe to be true, right, and good. When elected officials, such as council members, represent other people in the community, they are particularly aware that they must act honorably and decently in the community, sharing with them the common virtues that govern and embrace and enhance their lives and the lives of the community, and avoiding the vices that tear down everything that is good and decent. I'm sure that every council member here would consider greed not a virtue, but as a vice. Accordingly, allow me to reiterate in part what I said earlier in the May 20th, 2016 council meeting, which is as true now as it was then. Why do we have to stoop so low as to imagine that gambling will answer any of our true needs as individuals or a community? Everyone knows all the evils with which gambling is associated, vices that tear down rather than build up, that separate rather than unite. Does anyone think the community would be gaining in strength of character by the injection of gambling into our social bloodstream? Can anyone identify a single positive virtue that gambling would contribute to our community? Gambling begins with greed and lust and ends for many in grief and disaster. Gambling establishments depend on their ability to suck the economic lifeblood from individuals whose losses are gains for such establishments. It is a win-lose proposition. The gambling establishment wins, you lose. If that were not true, gambling establishments would disappear. They thrive because some have allowed themselves to be persuaded that the risk of winning is in your favor. It is not. That ought to be a warning. As someone said, he who gambles picks his own pocket. It is hard for me to imagine that anyone would think that a casino could be in the best interests of this community. I know it is difficult to abandon a project one has dedicated so much time and effort to. But sometimes the best way to go forward is to return to the starting point and realize that a mistake, a big mistake, has been made and simply say, enough is enough. May God give you the courage and integrity to prevent this tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other public comments, please?
Good evening, Council and Ridgecrest public. Let me just elaborate.
Mike, please identify yourself.
My name is Michael Neal.
Thank you.
Resident of Ridgecrest for over 40 years. I'd like to just elaborate in the next few minutes about how we actually got to this point and why we should never have gotten to this point. When the casino vote occurred in 2016, there was a problem with it that few people are aware of. It's called conflict of interest. Councilpersons Breeden and Maurer stood to benefit financially from their vote and should have recused themselves from voting. Curious? Let me explain. Here's a statement on that subject from the California Attorney General's office. Conflict of interest laws are grounded on the notion that government officials owe paramount loyalty to the public and that personal or private financial considerations should not be allowed to enter the decision-making process. The common law prohibition against self-dealing has long been established in California law. Eliminating temptation, get this temptation now, for public officials, avoiding the perception of impropriety, and obtaining their undivided loyalty have been deemed as extremely important. And it is no import whether actual fraud or dishonesty is involved in the contract process. So did the vote for the casino by Breeden and Maurer have financial interest in them? Well, consider the following from California government law, the code of the California Fair Political Practices Code, in a document entitled "Is a Financial Effect Reasonably Foreseeable?" And you have to think a little bit about these statements in here, but please do so. First one, well, let me just explain that. It says a financial need not be likely to be considered reasonably foreseeable. If the financial effect can be recognized as a realistic possibility, it is reasonably foreseeable. Here's what defines that. The extent to which the occurrence of the financial effect is contingent upon intervening events. So think about that a little bit. In other words, could the vote cause things to happen that will benefit them? Second one, does the public official, should they anticipate a financial effect on his or her financial interest as an outcome? In other words, does the vote look like it'll be in their favor financially? And whether the public official has a financial interest that would typically be affected by the terms of the decision. And otherwise, are they in the right business for them to benefit from the effect of their vote? Next one, whether a reasonable inference can be made that the financial effects of the decision might compromise a public official's ability to act in the best interest of the public. In other words, is this vote in their favor or in yours? And the next one, whether the decision will provide or deny an opportunity or create an advantage for one of the official's financial interests. In other words, will they benefit and prosper from it? Okay, I'm running short of time, so I'll chop off the last one. You can look these up in California law if you're curious. Now, the point is, people say, well, they didn't vote to approve a contract that's going to get them money. Well, we just went through 5 points of what a reasonably foreseeable possibility of profiting from this is. Think about, does a council member with an advertising business stand to benefit from a new business in town that says it's going to do tens of millions of dollars of business a year and it's going to want to advertise its product? Does a council member with a hardware store and good connections to all the contractors in town stand to benefit from the sales of lumber, hardware, so forth and so on to the contractors who are going to be working to build a $20 million supposed facility or maybe even more. You decide about that if you think that's a possibility. So do you think the casino vote should have been taken by all 5 council members or maybe only the 3 who had no current conflict of interest? I say Breeden and Mowers should have never voted on the casino MSA or the land sale, that their vote was tainted by their interest, and this has thrown this city into strife and division because of it. So think carefully. Who deserves your vote for council and mayor in the upcoming election?
Thank you. All right, next, please.
Ronald Porter. First, I want to address the agenda. This agenda isn't what was on the internet, but most important, it violates the Brown Act because it states that the council cannot answer questions from someone during public comment, which the Brown Act says quite clearly that you can. It's limited. The limited statement after that is true and correct, but that statement is absolutely wrong, and it is in violation of the Brown Act. The other thing I want to address is the survey that's on the City Council internet regarding the Parks and Recreation District they want to have. That survey doesn't allow people to answer it. I tried. It says, no, you've already answered it. Well, I didn't. So as far as I'm concerned, that survey has no reliability whatsoever. And number 2, it shouldn't be there until the City Council brings the issue to the people and allows the people to have a discussion on it before we even spend money on it. I don't understand why we keep going down this road when the people are being told, we don't want to hear from you. Last night, we had a meeting here talking about increasing fees. There's a very serious problem with this meeting is because it says, we don't want to subsidize, the city doesn't want to subsidize city services for their citizens. Well, I thought that's what cities were here for, is to take care of us. We want to have a fee for everything they do for us. They even have a fee to have your Fix-It ticket signed off. If that's it, why don't they just make it a business? They charge fee for everything, then we don't have to pay taxes. They also have this, they keep talking about quality life, and a person's home and the value of his home is the greatest quality of life they have, far more than Parks and Recreation. But yet we subsidize Park and Recreation, and we don't want to subsidize you enjoying your home. A person told me today something that was very, very interesting. When a city starts deciding you have to have permits for this and permits for that, he says, well, really in reality what they're doing is they're taking the people's rights away and then selling them back to them. They're going, every time they need a permit, they go to the lowest common denominator. Well, somebody might do this. Well, that's fine and dandy. But why should I have to pay for the idiot out there? I'm sorry. That's not our job, is to promote the stupid. And I hope I don't offend anybody, but that's how it has to be said. I read through the entire report that was provided by the consultant, and I would like to know how much that cost.
$15,000.
Thank you. The problem with it is it does not support his conclusions. It doesn't support anything to raise any fee whatsoever. California Constitution says those fees can only be to cover costs. There's not enough information in that report to support that argument. No one could win that anywhere in court or anywhere but any reasonable person. I don't mind paying fees. But if I want to repair something on my house, that's my property. Our founders just, pursuit of happiness. Well, before they changed that word to happiness, Jefferson said property. The reason he said property is your security, a place to live in peace, a place to raise your children, a place to be secure. I understand the need for public safety, but if I do something, a majority of things on my home, the only person's safety it's going to interfere with is my own. And for them to continue to say, if there's a city right now that if you want to change a ceiling fan in your house, you have to have a permit to change the ceiling fan. The question is, where does this end? When do the people... every person sitting up there works for the people. And they need to justify, why is this a benefit? Why is this a public safety and health hazard? Which is really the only authority the state of California gives you. I think we need to ask those questions. I think these need to be brought up front and center before we move on in most of these things. I'm not saying some of them may or may not be needed, but we certainly need to ask the questions. And that's the problem. We're not asking the questions. Thank you.
Mr. Porter, let me respond briefly here. That was why it was a workshop last night, to see what everybody wanted. What did you think? What can we do? How can we make it better? And that's why we are setting up an opportunity for the developers and the builders to come back to staff and say, we think. And then we will have another council meeting or another workshop. We aren't taking action. We're seeking information to be fair and honest and open. What more can we do by bringing it to all of you and saying, what do you think?
Well, I wasn't going to...
That's wrong. My apologies, sir.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. But before this ever came to the point we're spending money for this thing, that should have been brought to council. Do we want to look at this? How do we want to look at it? The city manager doesn't run this city. The city council does.
I think the council authorized that spending for that.
They did.
It was never done to a city council meeting to my knowledge.
Yes, it was.
Well, then I'll check and I'm wrong.
Thank you.
I have no problem
All right.
admitting I'm wrong because I certainly
Okay.
don't know everything.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right. Any other public comment?
Good evening. George Golson, Chairman for the Timbisha Shoshone Tribe. And if the casino is such a spiritual crisis, the foundation of any religion that I've ever studied was freedom of choice. Freedom to choose when to go to church, if to go to church, where to go to church, how to serve, how to... It's the foundation of America, freedom of religion. And I hear a lot about how the casino is going to bring hellfire and brimstone to this community. But at the same time, I certainly don't see any signs up for revivals. I don't see the clergy out in the streets reaching out to educate, to bring people into their fold. When I was a young man, I'm Pentecostal. That was the thing. You know, there were revivals. There was a sense of need to get the word out to people, to educate them, to not go to the casino. It bothers me when you have, and all due respect to the clergy, if it's such a spiritual crisis here in town, why aren't you doing something about it now by reaching out to the people in town, getting them into that church? Yeah, that would be, if I was clergy, I think that would be my goal. Educate the people. Teach the people. Instead of coming after us, how we're going to create centers, how we're going to do all these things that are bad to the community with prostitution and drugs and all these things. Yeah, you know, I read my Bible. I pray every day. I pray every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't pray. Because in the times that we live in, you have to. You have to. It's not a question. I pray for my people. Just like these fabulous leaders you have up here that are elected watching out for you, I'm watching out for my people as well. And I challenge anybody in the community. You're all intelligent, and you have access to Google just like anybody else. I would challenge you to find out the facts for yourself. I come here and I hear people up here talking about statistics from casinos that aren't even Indian casinos. Statistics from Las Vegas. Statistics from large cities. Apples to oranges. If you really want to find out for yourself, and I have absolutely no objection whatsoever, if you don't like the casino and you don't like gambling, that's respectable if it's real. But when you have to make up a lie, or you have to twist the facts to fit your agenda, I don't respect that. If you really don't like the casino based off of religion, I respect that. That's respectable. If you don't like the casino because somebody's telling you it's going to use a lot of water and we're going to grow marijuana in there, that's stupid. Find out for yourself. The public here, I would say, per capita, has a higher degree of education than most communities. I'd be very surprised if you didn't have access to this thing called Google. Be very surprised. Google Indian casinos. Find out for yourself. Educate yourself. And then look at the propaganda and compare what you know firsthand to the propaganda you're hearing. Because if you oppose it and it's legitimate, good. I can agree with that, and I can appreciate that. But if you oppose a casino based off of lies or misrepresentation or twisting of facts, well, then that's your ignorance. And you should be educated on what is really coming to the community. I would want to be educated what's coming to the community if it was coming to my community. I've been around Indian casinos for a long time. I go to Indian casinos all the time. I know what they are, and I've experienced them firsthand. But if I was you, the public, educate yourself. Because I hear, we're going to use lots of water, but I see where there's a bunch of new apartments coming in, some new hotels. They're going to use 100 times more water than we will ever use. So I would just challenge the public, educate yourself. Know what you're talking about. Understand what's coming. And that's something that I can respect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there other public comment? Remember, we have an hour for public comment, and it looks like we're coming on about 15 more minutes. I'm not trying to discourage any of you from speaking, so thank you.
Good evening, Sean King here. In reference to the email I sent council members and city manager, I'd just like to quickly summarize what I said, that I do try to follow Christ, but having said that, most people agree with the maxim to treat others as you would want to be treated yourself, whether you're a humanist, whether you practice any religion or no religion, Hinduism, all the major religions have a similar maxim. So I come to my concern comes from that thought that I don't want for others what I don't want for myself, which is more difficulties and issues. I cited some sources in my email that were from non-secular sources. It did not differentiate between what kind of gaming facility it was. It just talked about gambling in general. I cited a source from the Smithsonian. No, excuse me, the Scientific American. I cited a source from the Atlantic, and then from the National Gambling Problem Center. I think I'm getting that a little mixed up, but the link is in the email. And the Scientific American talked about gambling addiction being much like drug addiction. Nobody intends to be addicted to drugs. Nobody goes out and intends to be addicted to gambling. In the Atlantic article, it referenced a very educated man who lost everything, including his own life, because of his gambling addiction. And then the Center for Problem Gambling source cited a study referencing the military and gambling and how the military is at a much greater danger of gambling addiction through the ranks and ages of the servicemen and women, and why. And being so close to the base, I think that's very relevant to consider. So I just would like your consideration on that we don't want to incur more difficulties for our friends and neighbors. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tom Rafalski, in reference to Chief Golson saying for the locals to do their homework, I would refer everybody to the website www.noridgecrestcasino.com, where we have 100 people that have contributed a stack of documentation, probably 6 inches tall, that substantiates everything the church people have said. We looked at all the aspects. It's all there. NoRidgecrestCasino.com. I invite you to read it.
Thank you, sir.
Dave Matthews, my address is on file. And no, that's not my last name, Skip. I wasn't going to say anything. However, Reverend Knight made reference to representation in his address about the casino. And there's one thing I would like to point out, that there are many people, and this is partly the reason I decided to run for council the last time. Many people in the county, just outside the city limits, had absolutely no representation in that argument. So there's a lot of people in the valley that did not have representation. So that's a problem there in itself. As far as Google is concerned, Google is pretty amazing. It's got me some answers quickly to a lot of things. However, I would not take Google's terms as being completely representative in many cases, because there's a lot of things that go into what comes up, the way you phrase a question or a search that you put on Google. And a lot of that is weighted heavily in favor of certain answers. The other thing that I'd like to point out that was mentioned early in the early days of the casino discussion is that the so-called Native Americans, which I object to the term very strongly because I too am a Native American. I was born in this country, and every person born in this country is a Native American. The tribes are not playing on a level playing field. If I or anybody else in this city or this state wanted to come in there and open a casino, you would not be able to do it. Okay, that's one point. The other point is that the whole, I don't know when it got started, because I was trying to find this information on Google and it seems to be missing somewhere. Maybe I don't know the right terms to search. But how this whole concept of sovereign nation got started, and where it got started, and why, to me, that is unconstitutional. No matter whether it's tribes or anybody else, nobody can set up a sovereign nation within the borders. We pledge allegiance to the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible. There's a phrase I'm looking for there, I'm sorry. Undivisible or something like that. It's in there somewhere. Anyway, those are my comments on this subject, and that's it for tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, I promise I'll be brief. My name is Scott Miller, live in Ridgecrest. My address is on file. So much to say, and I'm going to make it as brief as I can. Reminding council there is a standing MSA that is in play. There is a website that was mentioned by several of the audience members. I've gone to the website several times. I'm offended as you use some words that I purposely don't ever use unless I mean them. Mr. Neal, the word all refers to Mr. Neal. Okay, cool. I'm invisible to here too. The word all includes everybody. That website does not speak for everybody and all people as it refers to. I'm a business owner in Ridgecrest, and I support the tribe and an entertainment complex coming to this town for various reasons. One of them is our economy. How many small businesses have closed in Ridgecrest in the last 3 years? Anybody know? I did a count. I'm not going to repeat it because I don't have it off the top of my head because I didn't write it down this morning. There's a lot of businesses that have closed. Will a entertainment complex bring money to this town? Absolutely. People keep forgetting that it's not just a casino. There's restaurants. There's a entertainment venue. There's going to be a hotel. People keep talking about this complex being close to the base. This may be simpleton thinking is, well, aren't most of the hotels in Ridgecrest right next to the base? Kind of think so. They're right by the gate. Whether it's by the front entrance or not, they're all right close to the gate. With that, I just want to remind council, we have an active MSA. That website, it's interesting to say the least. The other thing is the clergy. I strongly encourage you to meet with the tribe. I thank you for this information here. Only thing I saw wrong with it is it doesn't talk about people here. It talks about things that have happened in other areas and other parts of the country. It doesn't talk about our town. It doesn't talk about my town. We have an amazing law enforcement team in this town, and the tribe stands behind that. I stand behind that, and there are many, many, many business owners and wannabe business owners that do stand behind growing our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Madam Mayor, council members, my name's Mark Storch. I'm a former commander of the Weapons Division and the base at China Lake. I commanded China Lake during the BRAC 2005. I've been through 2 BRACs while my time in DOD. Once when I was an officer in charge of an activity in Guam. As you may recall, the BRAC Commission closed Naval Air Station at Ganya. So I'm familiar with what happens when things go bad in a BRAC and they close the base. I'm also familiar when things go good in a BRAC, like they did in 2005, and over $200 million of construction occurred and work came to China Lake, not as much as we might have wanted, but it was still a positive event for us. So I'd like you to consider that our relationship, the city and the Navy, is a fragile thing, it's an important thing, and it's judged by BRAC commissioners as part of their process to evaluate a base. The relationship of the local town and the base is something that they look at. I would ask you to consider that as you go forward, because any negative issue, any issue of notoriety can cause them to assign a risk. We've got big decisions coming up. The DOD is trying to decide how they're going to do software in the future for one of the big fighter programs in DOD. We hope that comes here. And if it doesn't, that's going to be a huge problem for lots of the people that work out there. I think a lot of you here understand that. So this is very, very serious. I recorded a video piece last week. You may have seen it. My main concern is a future BRAC. It doesn't take an incident, many incidents of notoriety to cause a problem. As a former captain in the U.S. Navy, I know that my sailors and the Marines that I commanded here at China Lake and other locations throughout the U.S. Navy get into trouble. And when they get into trouble, it's a notorious thing that gets a lot of press. So you be the judge. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a casino. I'm just saying that it is a place where people can get into trouble. And it's right outside the main gate. And there's a lot of people who object to casinos. And if that happens to be some BRAC commissioners, I don't know what you're going to do. You're going to sit there and tell them they're stupid or they don't know how to look at Google or something? Well, they make a decision that's negative towards what we've got to do here for most of the people. The U.S. Navy is the economic engine of this valley. It dwarfs anything else around. Okay? All of our businesses and all of our homes, the values of our homes, are dependent upon the success of the Navy at China Lake. There shouldn't be any reason why anybody would want to gamble with that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Okay, we will close public comment, and we will come to council announcements. Lindsay?
Yes, I have a few. Tomorrow night here, RPD is hosting an open house at 6 p.m. Also, they have these special badges this month for one of our citizens, one of our very young citizens here, Kylie Chance. She's 5 years old and has a form of leukemia that has attacked her blood and bone marrow and has been going through treatments every 10 days for over a year. And you can get one of those badges to help the family out with their costs, and it's $20. And they'll be available tomorrow night. Also, later this month, we have the Trunk or Treat happening on the 27th at 5, and the movie following that at 6:30.
Lois? Eddie? Mike?
Well, I was going to make any announcements, but I'm going to respond to the charges that were laid against me. Several months ago, we had a lawsuit filed by Mr. Neal that charged me of two things. Number one, what he brought up tonight. Number two, that because I own so much property in town, I was going to benefit financially. I never should have voted because my value of my property would go up. However, the anti-casino people say that it's going to cause property values to go down, so I guess everybody's property values are going to go down but mine. He didn't bring that up tonight. As far as me not being able to vote for a casino, if you want to take that further, any businessman in town should not vote for any business coming into town because it might benefit them. A grocery store might come and buy some nuts and bolts from me. So it is kind of ridiculous to say that I might benefit. I don't know if I will benefit or not. The casino is going to be very close to Home Depot. So that doesn't mean they're going to necessarily come to me. I think it's a very weak argument, and it's been tried before, and I'm sorry it does that. I have no problems with people being for or against the casino as long as they're telling the truth. And sometimes the truth is distorted, and I just think people need to watch out for that. Thank you.
I'm going to take this same opportunity to make some comments. I'd like to share with you what's been happening to me for the past 2 years. Right before the election last year, I was accused of taking $15,000 from the Indian tribe to go ahead and continue my support. Frankly, it was investigated. It was not true. And if anybody thinks I could be bought for $15,000, give me $1.5 million. Maybe I'll think about it, but not $15,000. And I wouldn't be bought for love or money. I was then told earlier this summer when I went up to Walker Pass, looked at the old house that Larry Zabel had for sale. It was for sale for $775,000. I loved it. I wanted it. But I said, I don't think I can afford it right now. And so when it came down, maybe a week after I looked at it, the listing was taken down. Rita Reed was a listing agent, thank you, Rita, who retired. So the listing was taken down. Do you know on Facebook I was told the tribe bought that for me and that's why it wasn't listed? Thank you guys, but I wish you'd given it to me. If you're going to buy it for me, give it to me. You did not. I did not accept. Now I'm told that I'm going to make money from advertising the casino. When we had our meetings here about 10 months ago, over 28 hours of testimony, I said, I will not now, nor will I ever take any advertising from the casino. If I'm going to make $1 million, as Mr. Neal referred to, I just gave it back to them. I am not going to take any advertising. I cannot be bought. I will not be bought. And I resent the heck out of you all saying that, or anybody believing it, because if it's said on Facebook 3 times, it must be true. It isn't. It's a lie. It's a vicious lie. 3 vicious lies. Not right. Then today, I'm sent an email by someone who I'm not going to name, who said, and I'm going to quote this, "How much did the Injuns give to Peggy and Mike?" How much? Nothing. The Injuns gave me nothing, and I will not accept it should it ever be offered. I belong to a church. It's very important in my life, and I believe in what they teach me. I believe in what I read. I believe that God speaks to all of us. I understand also in this email that was sent out that people were encouraged to come and throw at Mike and me 3 rolls of dimes so we could get our 30 shekels. Shame on you who said that. I am tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it. Whether you believe that I did right or I did wrong, I am not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to listen to it. And people who spread it, you're liars. That's all I can say. I think it's inappropriate for me to have to address this. I think it's inappropriate over and over and over again to be told I am a thief, that I can be bribed, what my price is. My price is you will never meet it. So don't expect it, and I'm tired of hearing it. If I continue to hear it and you say it, laws work both ways. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm just going to say, do not do this any longer to me, to my business, and to this community. It is not fair how we divide each other. It is not fair. I thank you for my opportunity to respond and make the announcements. And now I'd like to make one more announcement. We are having an IWV Optimist Petroglyph Festival kickoff dinner. It's going to be the 2nd of April. Sorry, folks, I got a little upset. 2nd of November. It's going to be held by the Optimist Club, and it's at the Kermagee Center. The cost is, it's from 6:30 until 7:30, and the cost of a table for 8 is $260, and it goes to great organizations. I appreciate what the Optimist Club does, and I continue to support many of these nonprofits in our community who get up and stand and say, count me in, I'm willing to do. So I have no more public comment, no more council comment. I would like to go to consent calendar. Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council, Successor Redevelopment Agency, Finance Authority, Hiring Authority, regular council meeting dated September 19th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. The next item is discussion and other action items. Proposed action to approve a resolution giving authorization to award a construction contract to PVC Plumbing and Mechanical for CBDG number 17.3.1 Senior Center Service Renovation Project, and for the city manager, Ron Strand, to execute the contract. Mr. Culp, please.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, is this thing working? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Is that working? Yes. I can't tell you how pleased I am to bring this thing before you tonight. I have some really good news for you, and I really enjoy the fact that I'm bringing this to you tonight as some good news. Let me just frame this up for you. This has been a long, difficult project. We've been fraught with difficulties along the entire path of this project. And finally, in the words of my dad, time, patience, and perseverance conquer all things, and we're there. Not only do we have a project to award tonight, but I've got a project that's under the engineer's cost estimate, It's within the budget, and we also have a local contractor that's going to be doing this for us tonight. I can't tell you how happy I am to be presenting this to you tonight, to finally get this off and launched for you tonight. So what I have here is a CDBG project for doing renovation to the senior center. And on September 11th, we opened bids, and we found that we originally had 5 bid packets that were drawn. We had 2 contractors to submit on it. We had PVC Plumbing and JTS. And we had the county review the bids, and Wildan, our engineering firm, also review, and their recommendations were to go ahead and award the project to PVC Plumbing and Mechanical. We had in the project we had a base bid and a bid option. The base bid was for doing asbestos removal, floor tiling, ceiling tiling, doing some work in the restrooms. We had also a bid option to do some plumbing, and there were some other miscellaneous countertops and cabinets. And I'm glad to report that the total bid came in such that we're able to award both the base bid and the bid option. What I'm asking for tonight from City Council is to prepare a purchase order in the full amount of $233,063. That will have a 11% contingency within that amount. And what I'm also requesting is that we authorize the city manager to sign the contract with PVC Plumbing. I might mention that we are going to try to do a quick start on this project. We're going to try to dovetail some of the work that's going to be done here with the paving project that's going to be starting on Monday morning. Monday morning we're starting the demolition of the parking lot at the senior center, but we're also going to try to see if we can allow this contractor a quick start to get in and maybe start doing the demolition so that we're not displacing the seniors any longer than we have to. So we're going to try to speed that up a bit. So with that, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, we're asking for the total amount of $233,063 for a purchase order, and you to authorize the city manager to sign the contract. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Is there discussion from council?
Thank you for getting this done, and thank you to the local company being willing to do the work and keep it under the amount of money that, so that we can actually do the whole project plus some. That's
well, thank you. I appreciate that. This has been I could write a short story on all the difficulties. It's been a torturous path to get here. I'm very happy to be able to present you with some good news here for this project.
Yes.
Good. Any other council comment? Is there any public comment? I want to stand up and cheer.
I was going to say, I don't think you want to pass this up, do you?
Linda. Finally.
God bless you, young man. Linda Fuller. As a commissioner for the Department of Aging, God bless you.
Oh, thank
and
you,
I'm sure our total board, what was it you said? Perseverance?
Time, patience, and perseverance conquer all things.
Amen. And you guys as well. I'm going to cry.
We'll be cry with you with great joy. So thank you.
I move approval.
I second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, then the next item on the agenda is proposed action to approve a resolution to accept an order of a private party to acquire successor agency land approximately 2.58 acres within the Ridgecrest Business Park APN number 033070.15 and approval of resolution. Heather, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members.
The city received an offer by Ridgecrest Hospitality to purchase the land in the business park. The property consists of approximately 2.58 acres. The purchase price is $616,992.55. This land was on the agenda previously and pulled due to an evaluation of the fair market value, which increased the purchase price. The property is Lot 15 in the business park, and it's located on the corner of Ward Avenue and Chelsea Street. The buyer is proposing an extended stay Town Place Suites hotel on the property. These are renderings of a typical townhome place. The proposed hotel could have approximately 90 rooms. We are asking that you review and approve the purchase and sale agreement and the corresponding resolution.
Questions from council?
I just want to make something clear that we as a city are not getting $616,000, right? Do you know approximately how much we will get from that?
21,000.
Yeah.
We get 6.8% of half the purchase price.
And as I understand it, Sierra Sands gets the bulk of that, and this is according to agreement that was reached by all those RDA members.
Correct.
Is that correct? Other agencies, including down to the East Kern Resource Conservation District, gets, is it 7,000? I mean, don't take my number. I'm going by memory. They got money too, so it's a lot of agencies who
Yes.
are part of the redevelopment agency who gets money from this, including the city of Ridgecrest and our little amount. So, is there any other council questions?
I had one. Ms. Heather, you said that there was an increase in the price.
Yes, that's correct.
Could you be kind enough to walk me through that process, how we were able to get an increase?
When we agreed to move forward with the letter of interest from the proposed purchaser, we contacted local realtor and asked for a fair market value of the relative price. And they came back with it, I believe it was about $1 more a square foot than it was previously. So then we renegotiated with the buyer.
Could you identify, I'm sorry, Eddie,
Go ahead.
will you go? Could you identify what, with this sale, what else in this we are approving?
You're only approving the agreement, the sale agreement, purchase and sale agreement.
Okay, because I've heard around town that it's significantly more than that, and I want to set it straight, is that we are selling the land, and that is the agreement only.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other comments?
I just wanted to point out that even though we're receiving a small amount for the land sale, if this project is built, we will receive TOT from the hotel, which
Right.
would be...
But there's other approvals that need to happen long
Exactly.
before that happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that we're not going to have $616,000 to go out and spend. That half that goes to the
China Lake Properties.
Properties.
Because
Yeah,
that was the agreement made back in the early 90s. And then it's shared with the other agencies. So,
Yeah, we estimate our portion of this sale will be about $21,000 in residual funds from the successor agency.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item?
Yes, excuse me. Dave Matthews. You mentioned it's lot 15 and it's on the corner of Ward and Chelsea. I'm not real familiar with that intersection. Is there 4 corners, two corners, one corner.
Can you
Which
give
corner is it?
Go back to
Put the picture back. There you go.
Well, you can just describe it.
It's behind Taco Bell, Mr. Matthews.
I'm sorry.
Right behind Taco Bell, the vacant lot behind Taco Bell.
Is that the north side of Ward?
South.
It's the south side of Ward.
It's
East
east
of
of Taco Bell and the
Okay.
southwest corner of Chelsea and Ward.
All right, thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, is there any other discussion from the council?
I'd move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is proposed action to approve a resolution to accept an offer of a private party to acquire successor agency land approximately 2.5
You're on the
acres.
wrong one. That's the one we just did.
That's the one we just did. I was going to say, why did I just read that? Okay, sorry, my apology, folks. Number 4, introduction and first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest amending the zone map change ZC 1701 of the City of Ridgecrest and approving a development agreement, DA, between the City of Ridgecrest Investors, LLC, and 900 Downs, LLC applicant, and approving corresponding resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest approving General Plan Amendment, GPA 1701. Heather?
Madam Mayor.
Please.
You have to talk right into it. Sorry. That's okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council. Is it working? Okay.
There we go.
Sorry
You're on.
about that. Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Asoka Herat. I'm a planning consultant. Worked on this project before you tonight within last 9 months or so. And you may be very familiar with this project because the project came before the council a couple of times, and it was referred back to the Planning Commission to include all components of the project, and that's what you have before you tonight. And the project includes a general plan amendment, a request for a zone change, and a development agreement. And the project is located north of Bowman Road on the east side of Down Street. I didn't say it's at the corner because between the Bowman Road and the project area, there is a bike lane and a drainage basin. And the project area consists of 13.32 acres and has 2 parcels. The general plan for the project right now, the northerly parcel is a residential medium density. Southerly parcel is commercial village. And the applicant is asking a general plan amendment to go to residential high density, which will allow 14.1 to 29 dwelling units to the acre. And also in the general plan map, the southerly parcel, which is currently a commercial parcel, has a designation identified as a village commercial center. And the applicant is asking the removal of that from the general plan. Along with the general plan, there is a zone change subject to approval of the general plan. The northerly parcel is zoned R2 at this time. The southerly parcel is zoned commercial, and the zone CG commercial. And the zone change request is to designate both parcels to R3, which will facilitate development of a apartment complex, which I will get into in a little bit. It's not before you tonight because the Planning Commission took action on it earlier. The agreement is between the city and the Ridgecrest Investors LLC and 900 Downs LLC. An agreement spells out responsibilities of the city as well as the applicant. And it allows for three-phase development, phase 1, 2, and 3, to a total of 198 unit construction. And during each phase, the applicant is expected to, or agreeing to, make certain improvements, road improvements, traffic signal modifications, and various other improvements. And the city is agreeing to allow certain time periods for each phase to be developed, and city is also requiring the applicants to pay fees for each phase at certain time within certain time periods. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 28th, and at that time, in addition to these three applications, the Commission also had a site plan review application for construction, approval to construct a 198-unit apartment complex on the property. And there was during the public hearing, only one homeowner who lives across the street, down street, and testified to the Commission indicating a traffic problem in that area. And the Public Works Director as well as the Planning Commissioner explained the improvements that are required of the site plan, which is to build the 198-unit apartment complex that will improve the circulation within that area. The Commission, subject to your approval of the general plan and the zone change and the development agreement, approved the site plan, which is not before you because the authority lies with the Planning Commission for that approval. And also the Commission approved a negative declaration according to the California Environmental Quality Act, what we call it a CEQA. And the Commission took action to recommend approval of the general plan amendment, zone change, and the development agreement to the City Council and adopt a negative declaration for the project. And the negative declaration indicate that all components of the project together will not significantly impact the environment, and therefore the negative declaration has been prepared. And I believe Heather has few minor changes to the development agreement.
The final development agreement has a couple of changes from what is before you, and I'm going to list those for you. The recital E, the square footage is 387,810. In recital I, the date of the Planning Commission meeting was August 28th. And also Exhibit C lists the phasing of the projects and the time periods in which those will happen. And the changes to that are Phase 2 would be 66 units, and they have 6 months after the issuance of the final. And Phase 3 is 110 units with 12 months after the issuance.
With that, we are available for any questions.
So Phase 2 changes to 66, and Phase 3, 110, is that
correct?
And the approximate, on number D, the approximate acreage?
13.32 acres.
Thank you. Acreage, I'm sorry, square feet.
387,810.
Okay, thank you.
That's floor area. Square footage is floor
Right.
area.
I got it. Okay. Is there discussion or questions from council?
Phase 1 is at the north or south end of the property?
It's in the middle of the project
middle,
area, adjacent to the main access to the project.
That makes sense.
So I just want to ask a question both to you and Mr. Culp, and I guess Ron too. I mean, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So there were some concerns. This went back to the Planning Commission. Am I correct in saying that all of the concerns were met?
Right. When the item came before the City Council last time, there was no general plan amendment request or a zone change request. And the request was to approve the project pending submittal of those applications.
Okay.
And this time it is not pending any applications, and all the applications are processed together.
Okay. So, Mr. Culp, I mean, there's no red flags here.
No, we've negotiated these in good faith with the developer. They're quite satisfied.
Okay.
I've got a picture of it. It's just-
We've got it.
Hard to see him.
The person who expressed concerns, the traffic concerns, how were those addressed? Because I didn't see it in here.
It's in it's include project approved by the Planning Commission, and those include curb and gutter on the east side of the roadway, center median construction, left turn lane onto the residential area, going northbound, and southbound left turn lane onto the proposed apartment complex. And the city staff believes that those improvements will improve the safety of that area, the circulation.
Other questions or comments? Questions or comments from the public, please?
Yes, Mike Neal. I was not able to get my notes completely down. Is it possible to go back to the page where it talks about what the city is going to reimburse this project for? I think it's before that. And maybe before that one, actually. Okay. And if there's reimbursements on the other ones you just flip through, then I'd like to address that. Okay, so they want to execute a development agreement that says the city agrees to reimburse the owner for a design of the master plan portion of street and drainage improvements. It does not say how much that is and how much they're going to reimburse them for.
Ron, did you want to take that?
It would be for the cost up to what the development fees would be. So if it goes over, then they pay what's over. If it's within what those impact fees would be for that project, then the city would reimburse those costs.
And what would those amounts be?
I don't have those offhand.
Take a guess. Give me something to work with there.
I believe the traffic is about 250,000. And I think the drainage is approximately 200,000.
Okay. Do we have other fees or any other reimbursements from the city to this project?
No.
Those two. So what we're talking about here, after, I think it's timely, after the discussion of last night, city wants to raise all these fees on all the other developers. Undoubtedly, in most cases, the smaller builders are not going to get off on something like this. And yet the city, for reasons not stated at all, wants to basically give this developer $450,000 that they could get from him for fees. Why is that?
Let me explain a little bit further. The off-site improvements that the developer is conducting is part of our master drainage plan, which is covered under our impact fee structure, as well as Bowman Road, which is also part of our circulation plan as part of our general plan, which is part of the impact fee structure. So, yes, we are having them make those improvements, and they are going to get reimbursed as a way of trying to get this sort of multifamily housing development within the community. It is very difficult to get this type housing within the community because it's not the normal single-family dwelling where the builder takes a loan, they build the structure, they sell it, they repay the loan, they take their profit, they move on. Typically, the multifamily is something that is built and managed by the corporation that builds it. And currently, right now, the reason why the developer is only looking at 22 units to start off with we do not have the experience of the level of rent that the developer needs to be able to justify a loan that can allow them to build this full 198 units. They're starting off with the 22 units in hopes that they can show an experience of about $1,500 a month in rent. And when they do, then they can move forward with the other phasing. Now, in phase one, they pay their full impact fees. The only fees that will be waived would be impact fees in phase two and phase three. Phase two would be for the design of the roadway and the drainage, and then phase three would actually be the construction. So there is a little bit of caution for the city that if it's not built after phase two, there's nothing that's left undone, and the city is whole.
This is not a gift to the developer. So
Trying to get clarity.
understand that, please.
What you trying to say is that this is things the city should pay for normally, but yet we're charging the developer fees for this. So that doesn't make sense.
From the
Developer impact fees are designed, especially for the traffic impact fees, as part of our circulation element of the general plan. And this location happens to be part of our circulation element, which then, when you impose the impact fees, you are imposing those fees because their impact of that development is affecting these areas. And so, and in fact, we are using their money to improve those areas as part of our general plan and the impact fees, as well as the drainage.
What traditionally happens is when you introduce like a new business or development in an area, the roadways see increased traffic, so you charge them a fee so that then you're able to resurface it.
Exactly.
And this is a very traditional practice.
But yet we're not actually going to make them pay for it because, as was previously stated, we want to get this development in here. Now they're going to build the whole 22 units. They're talking about 198, but then, you talked about the rent structure. If it doesn't play out for them, maybe they stop at the 22. And then we've given them almost $500,000 on these fees.
No.
Mr. Neal, that's incorrect. They are paying the impact fees for the 22 units. The only way these fees come into play is if they engage in phase two and phase three.
So the 450 is actually not going to be due from them in the first phase.
Correct.
To be later on when they expand.
Correct.
At what point?
Phase two, they would design both the drainage as well as the roadway, and then phase three, the funds would be used for the actual development or improvement of those roadways.
And what is the phase two size?
Oh, the number of homes, I think it's 66.
66. So that leaves 80.
Leaves 110 for
leaves
phase
110 more in phase three. So phase two is when we're going to forgive the $450K worth of fees?
No, not. It would be, I think, our factor on. Lauren, what's the per unit cost for traffic impact fees for the multifamily? Is it
$1,400 and change?
Right. It'd be $1,400 per unit times 66 for phase two, and then times 110 for phase three. 92,000 for phase two.
Somehow I'm not seeing that add up to 450,000.
What did you just say, sir?
Somehow I'm not seeing the numbers you just gave me add up to $450,000 for the whole phase 1, 2, 3 here.
You asked me to pull this off the top of my head. I was giving my best estimate. It's $246,000 for phase two and phase three for traffic. Now you have to understand is that we do have a need for multifamily, and yes, we are not giving a gift. We're not subsidizing this development. We are just using the funds that they have for the actual impact fees in accordance to our development impact fee ordinance, and in reference to our master general plan and general plan itself.
Okay. Well, we'll be keeping.
So we would not be using these funds to, let's say, rebate a developer to put in a local street that's not part of our circulation plan. Now, as long as this roadway is part of our circulation plan, then we can use the funds because that's what the impact fees are for. That's what they're designed for.
clearly.
Mr. Culp, if I'm wrong, can you correct me? Or
No, you're correct.
okay.
Okay. Well, I'd be honest and say this sounds like a subsidy. We talked a lot about that last night. We're going to be keeping that in mind when the further discussions about the huge proposed impact increases to all the fees in this city to the builders get discussed again.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Is there any other council comment? Is there a motion?
So moved to waive the reading in full of an ordinance of the city council. Do I have to read the whole thing?
Please, for the record.
Okay. The city of Ridgecrest amending the zoning map, zone change 17-01 of the city of Ridgecrest and approving a development agreement between the city and Ridgecrest Investors LLC and Downs LLC applicant.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay.
I make a motion to introduce by title only of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest and amending the zoning map zone change 17-01 of the City of Ridgecrest and approving a development agreement between the city and Ridgecrest Investors LLC and 900 Downs LLC applicant.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is committee reports, and thank you all for your input and all your work. Okay, committee reports, City Org and Services Committee.
We did meet 2 days ago. There were 2 items on the agenda. I remember the B&B. I don't remember what the other one was. Anyway, we discussed, apparently we have several bed and breakfasts in town which are not paying TOT like the hotels do. They're competing with the hotels, but they're not paying TOT. The ordinance states that anybody that stays in a place for less than 29 days, is that what it is?
Yep.
29 days should be paying TOT, daily TOT. Once it goes over 29 days, then it's considered a monthly rent, so it's not subject to TOT. And so this was just initial discussion. We're going to be doing further research on this and trying to identify exactly how many we have and what effect it will have on us.
The other item was fare box ratio.
Pardon?
It says fare box ratio.
Fare box ratio. Okay, we did discuss why we pay general fund money to meet the fare box.
It's Measure V money.
Is the Measure V money, or is it just general?
Some of it was.
Either fund. It was just to make up the difference so we can continue to receive the transit money, which the excess funds we use towards streets. So I believe Mr. Lauren explained, or Mr. Lauer explained, why we're able to do that and what the rules are concerning that. That was brought up by Mr. Neal.
And this year it's about $60,000. But our return on that is, if we didn't meet fare box, we lose a substantial amount of money, which is about 4 times what that is. So.
Yeah. I thought is that going to be in City Org, or is it going to be in infrastructure? We were going to talk about plans.
We are trying to get more information, and we will send it on. We know because we decided whether it was a finance, whether it was an org, or was it part of infrastructure. So when we get the report back from staff, then we'll be able to say, okay, we are developing the policy, perhaps, and then sending on to other committees and then to the council.
Okay, because I know we talked about it in finance and infrastructure, and then we talked about that they were going to be presenting plans on how we were going to meet the fare box ratio, hopefully.
Yes, I believe the plan is to eventually convert some of our fleet to electric vehicles, which will reduce our fuel costs, which we hope will put us within that 10% fare box ratio, so we don't have to have any sort of additional funding to meet that requirement.
Okay.
Okay, Finance Committee.
I wasn't here, so.
We haven't met since the last council meeting.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
We met right
Before
before
the-
the last
oh, okay.
council.
Okay.
We meet the third Monday.
Yeah. Infrastructure?
Yes, we met, we got an update on the splash pad. It's being held up because the county has put certain requirements on the contractor that he is now working on to get that information back to the county. The major thing we discussed was carports encroaching into the right-of-way and easement and the setbacks. There's approximately 89 carports that we surveyed around town, only 3 of which ever got permits. Some of them go all the way out to the sidewalk, so they're encroaching into the utility easements. And anytime we build a structure, it has to be 20 feet behind the property line, so basically 30 feet behind face of curb. And so these things, most of them are intruding into that area. And so we're going to have to work up an ordinance and discuss that further, and then if necessary, bring it to council. Then we got a short update on wastewater treatment plant. We're kind of in the final negotiations with the Navy to get that worked out so we can proceed with going forward on that. Then we had an item added to the agenda, which was just a education on streets, street improvements. And we got a lot of good information out of that from a company that they sent 2 people down to go over different slurry seals, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a pretty educational opportunity. And hopefully we're going to be able to use this information in the spring when we proceed with street improvements. And that's it.
Parks and Rec.
We did not meet because we had our workshop last night.
Okay, Youth Advisory.
Madam Mayor and Council, we are under some construction. We're working out with some of the young leaders. We don't have our general meeting. We're just meeting now with the future leaders of Ridgecrest, if that is stated correctly, Chief. Thank you.
Okay, Action Committee.
We did meet. This was one of our biannual meetings. It is always a very eye-opening meeting, and I would encourage people. It only meets twice a year to be in attendance. Especially members from the school district would be helpful to be in attendance. We had the school resource officer present information on what's been going on. There is a problem with drugs in our school. Wax is what one of them is called, and the problem with it is it's undetectable, basically. It's odorless. We had a student recently who collapsed because of that during school hours. So it's a serious problem, and we really need people to be cracking down and making sure it's not entering into the schools. So,
thank you. RACVB?
No, we didn't meet.
All right, Economic Development Committee?
We did not have an official meeting because we were at the League of California Cities, but we did meet today with our economic development consultant in preparation for attending ICSC, the Western Conference, next week. So we will be doing that. We have appointments scheduled with Chipotle, Panda, Marriott, and a few others.
Thank you. Okay, other committees, boards, or commissions? All right. City Manager's report?
I have no report.
Future agenda items?
I have one, if you don't mind, please.
Please.
Coming up in November, our second meeting in November is Thanksgiving Eve. It's November 21st. So I want to have a discussion and find out the council consensus on what you want to do with that meeting, because we have some agenda items that are coming up that need to know where they can be moved, because the meeting after that we'll have a new council seated, and potentially we might have to have a special meeting if we cancel that meeting on the 21st, which isn't a problem with the staff that needs that item brought forward, We just need to know if you guys are planning to cancel that meeting because of the date, so we can adjust our schedules for items being brought to the council.
Are you looking to have another meeting, Rika, instead?
Potentially.
So
It depends
we
on
went
this
like
item.
the 14th. Does the difference between the 7th and the 14th give staff enough time to
It
prepare?
does. But at this point, we don't know that we need that just yet. If you want to put a potential meeting on the 14th and cancel the 21st, and Lindsay's shaking her head no.
No. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I'm available the week of the 21st.
I'm available also.
Is there a third person available?
Thanksgiving Eve?
Yeah, I'm not going out of town for Thanksgiving. You might be, though, huh? Are you?
I'm potentially going out of town, so
Peggy,
potentially.
will you be out of town or in town?
I never go out of town. I'm here.
Okay. So
What if we schedule it the 28th?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Does it impact staff
that's
being there?
It probably does, so we probably shouldn't have it
Thanksgiving.
on the 21st.
Right.
Since that's the beginning of really a 4-day
yeah,
weekend.
28th would be okay.
Wallace?
Yeah, I think I'm not.
Okay.
City manager, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with any date they choose.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
So we're going to cancel the November 21st meeting, and if a special meeting needs to be called, we're going to call it on November 28th.
That's correct.
Okay, and I'll let you guys know as we get a little bit closer if that's the case or not as this item moves forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Does anybody else have any other agenda items?
Rika, do you mind stating what that item is?
Yes. Actually, Public Works Director, Mr. Lauer, believes that the eastbound Downs project will be potentially ready at that time, and he wants to bring it forward if it is. He has some bids that are out that are due to be open. I believe he said November 6th. He just wouldn't be ready by the November 7th meeting, so he wants that to be heard by this council. So.
And I know Mike is standing
Yeah.
up and cheering.
So I'll know more as the next couple meetings go forward, but that's the item that potentially needs to be heard right away.
I get asked almost daily, when the heck is Downs going to be done, so.
Hooray. Okay. Mayor and City Council comments. Is there any comments by any of you?
I have one, Madam Mayor, that I forgot to make mention of, and that is the Penny Pool is having a fundraiser on Friday night at the fairground. There's going to be a comedy show, and I can't think of the name of the group that's going to be providing the music.
The Focos?
Foco, yeah.
Thank you. Beverages will be available, and the doors open at 5 p.m. The show starts at 5:30 p.m., and the show starts at 7 out at the fairground.
You do have to have tickets for that. I don't know if you can buy them at the gate, but Cordell Construction is selling them as well, if you want to buy them from them.
Okay.
You can buy them at the gate. Lindsay's shaking her head. She thinks so. Okay.
Okay. And then, Madam Mayor, I have one other quick announcement, and that is one of the gentlemen quoted Martin Luther King's saying, but the true essence of his saying was not just on gambling; it was on the essence of equality, of bringing diversity into our existence at that time. So he wasn't making a statement just solely on gambling. He was making the statement on diversity, and that we should be able to get along with one another, and things should not separate us. So I just wanted to make sure that if we're going to quote him, quote all of him, and put it in context on how we're saying things from a perspective of a great leader. So that was my point.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other? Okay, so a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
We're moved. We're moved.